Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs, and brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Zia Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We're here with a terrific lady who's done it all. She's a former model, actress, cheerleader, figure skater. She began her wonderful career at the age of 7. She appeared in Playboy, CoverGirl, and also a VJ as well too for the Playboy channel, and also she also was in Hot Rock as well too, and also she was also a cheerleader for the USFL's LA Express, and she transitioned to global print sales, later became vice president business development, worked in insurance and financial industry, became a success, and she also got to be an author of a couple of books, Here Comes the Sun and Son of a Basque. And we'll talk about how she went from being a model, actress, cheerleader to getting insurance and an author as well. Just an amazing story, an amazing career. And live, ladies and gentlemen, from Plus Studios in beautiful downtown Los Angeles, the former model, actress, cheerleader, figure skater, and also global sales and insurance industry leader, and the author of the book, Son of a Basque. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen, the multi-talented Deborah Driggs. Deborah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
What an introduction. My gosh, you could do the eulogy at my funeral.
Eulogy, you're not dead yet. You're not dead yet.
I was like, wow, I gotta record that.
Well,
yeah,
actually,
it's kind of like at the very end, let's just call her the reinvention queen.
Yes, that's right. And I think we do need to reinvent as well, too. And when you thought about the eulogy, made me think of Monty Python's I'm not dead yet.
Yeah. I mean, but gosh, it's like, I'm like, wow, I guess I could pat myself on the back, which is so hard to do, and just say, yeah, you have dipped, into a lot of different areas in life. And what a great experience to have. And a lot of learning lessons come along with that. So thank you for the beautiful introduction, and thank you for the time and having me on your show.
And it's a pleasure as well, too. You got an amazing career. You're a former model, actress, cheerleader, figure skater. You began a career at the age of 7. You appeared in Playboy, CoverGirl. You're a VJ for the Playboy channel. And also you were in Hot Rock as well, too. And you're a cheerleader for the USFL's LA Express. You transitioned to global print sales, later became vice president business development, and also worked in insurance, financial industry. And you also an author of the book, Here Comes the Sun, and also Son of a Basque, which is a story of your grandfather, Mark Arrieta, and of course, being basically a story of survival and more. And before getting all that, Deborah, tell us how you first got started.
Gosh, I think, to go to the very beginning of all of that was the desire to perform. And that was the figure skating, just getting up you don't get up at 4 a.m. in the morning unless you really love what you're doing, especially as a kid, because that's a big commitment. And, I didn't have a social life. I had, skating and school, and that was it. And I liked my life that way. I liked what I got from skating because my home life was not so warm and fuzzy. It wasn't a fun, it was hard at home, and there was a lot of arguing and yelling and fighting and verbal abuse going on. And so I feel like my skating was that outlet to kind of like grow and learn and have beautiful coaches and mentors. And I understood that at a really young age, that was a gift. And so when I stopped skating at like right around 14, 15 years old, I remember that for me was like the first kind of codependent death, because skating was my life. And I had so many relationships there and coaches and mentors that to lose that at that age, I really had no tools in my toolbox yet and didn't know what to do. And so that was the first thing that kind of got swept under the rug, so to speak. And then right at the same time, my parents got divorced, which was, like 2 deaths. So now I've got the death of my parents and the death of the skating, and kind of really lost at a young age. And so I went into dance because that was kind of the natural progression from my skating, dance and cheerleading and still performing. And so when I won the spot on the USFL for the LA Express, that was the first time I performed in front of thousands of people, because there were thousands of people at the Hollywood Palladium for that first audition. My routine ended up on all the 5 o'clock news.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big deal. And that was my first taste of really performing at the Coliseum in front of big audiences and being on the news and, doing, like, all of a sudden we were doing promotional appearances, and the morning shows were having us as, the new cheerleaders, and Paula Abdul was teaching our routines. This was all 1983.
Wow.
And so that was kind of, I think, the beginning for me of, like, this is what I want to do with my life. I just want to perform.
Hmm.
I was young. I was 19 when I was a cheerleader, and I didn't know any better, thank goodness, because I probably would have today talked myself out of it. But I didn't know any better. I just thought, I want to perform, and this is so fun. I love all this attention. And I think that right there was the first addiction, because it was like, I liked being in the spotlight, and I liked having the all eyes on me and people coming up to me and grabbing me for an autograph after the games and all of that. And I liked what came with all that. And I'm not going to lie, I liked that attention. And so it was no accident that I ended up in Japan and began my modeling career. And then, I would say things out loud like, I'm going to do commercials and I'm going to be an actress. And everyone in my family was like, how many people make it in that business? Or, like, they had no clue what to say back to me, because nobody in my family was in the entertainment world. And I literally moved to North Hollywood on my own at 22 and began a career and did it all. I mean, there was no nepotism. I didn't know anybody. And Playboy came knocking in 1989. So I had already got an agent and was doing commercials and booking catalog work and modeling work. So, I had some stuff under my belt, and then Playboy came calling, and that was that opened up a whole other world. That's really when, Playboy was probably the #1 magazine in the world.
Hmm.
It was 1989. And, you had to go to lengths to get the magazine. You had to have a subscription. So it was the #1 subscription in the world. And it was probably 1,000 girls a day would send in Polaroids and beg, basically, to be brought into LA for an opportunity to be in the magazine. And so I
Wow.
didn't realize all that until I was sitting in the makeup chair in the famous Playboy building on Sunset. And I'll never forget, Mary was doing her name was Mary. I can't remember her last name, but she was doing my makeup. And she said, Playboy gets over 1,000 applications a day.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow, really? Like, I think
And,
at that moment, it hit me that, oh, I kind of, this kind of fell into my lap, and so, yeah, it was a big deal.
mhm. And how they contacted you is like, and how they found out about you. Was it through the LA Express? Was it through the channels, entertainment? Is just like, how do they first come in contact? Is like, how did they discover you?
Yeah, great question. So no, LA Express was in 1983. So from 83 to 89, I had already been modeling and working in the industry. And I was with an agency called Mary Webb Davis. And my agent at that time, her name was Vivian. She was a British woman, and she was my agent. And she called and said, Playboy has a new book coming out called The Lingerie Book, and they'd like to see you
Huh.
for an audition for the cover of that book. So I went in for the audition, and it was very clear within an hour of that audition that they wanted me to come and test to be a Playboy centerfold. And, I remember getting the call and thinking, that can't be right,
Hmm.
and I had to, like, kind of go back and forth with a lot of people on whether or not it was going to be a good idea for my career choice.
Hmm.
I was real naive at that time. I didn't really know if I wanted to go down that path. And everyone at that time said it would be a great idea It was a different time in the history of Playboy. It
Hmm.
was the number, like I said, it was the #1 magazine in the world. So
Right. I remember
the
that. And guys would line up just to get the latest issue. Even it's like, say, with Carol Alt or Cindy Crawford and all that. It's like some
yes,
guys
it
like
was
fight and
huge.
kill just to get that
Yes.
piece.
And there were at that time, gosh, I can't remember the number, but it was in the hundreds of thousands of fans, Playmate fans, just for the centerfolds. And so we did a lot of promotions back then. Once you were a centerfold, then you did promotions. And there were a lot of fans that would show up just to have you sign their issue. So it was a really big deal. And from that, then I was the first VJ for Playboy's Hot Rocks, which opened up a whole bunch of other doors. And that's how I ended up, I will say this, that I was doing really well up until Playboy, but when Playboy hit, all of a sudden I was being called in for everything. Everybody
Wow.
wanted to meet me, and my career just took off because everybody's like, "Oh, we want to hire her." And so, and then I ended up on the Oprah Winfrey Show and the Vicky Show, and just started doing Howard Stern, all those, because back then that's what you did. You just did the circuit of all the talk shows and radio shows and all of that. It's very different today, obviously, but back then it was a big deal.
And of course, spanning that time as well, too, social media makes it a lot easier. How did your family react to the news that you got on Playboy and got to be like #1 centerfold and everything like that?
There was really, it was just a reaction of, that's Debbie, that's, of course, because I think they were already kind of like, oh, she's on that commercial, and or you opened the paper and I was in a Sunday catalog ad, or they were used to kind of seeing me doing stuff and seeing me on TV. And I also was a model on the fashion channel at that time too, within those years. So I think they were starting to kind of get used to the fact that I was actually doing this and making a career out of it. And so
Hmm.
when Playboy came along, I think it was like, oh, okay, she got picked for that. I don't know, who knows? I wasn't, it's funny because when I look back on that time, I wasn't really close with anybody in my family, and I didn't know what their reactions were. I know that I wanted to do a promotion in Washington State, and they were a little more conservative, and they weren't interested in having me come.
Hmm.
Um, there were a few things like that because I have family in Washington State. But other than that, I just, because I don't have real close bonds with the people in my family, it just seemed like another job.
Hmm. Right, exactly. Yeah, we'll get to more about your family. We'll get more into your book. We'll talk about your amazing career going from the modeling industry, the actress industry, and also into global sales as well, getting the business sector with Deborah Driggs. But first, you listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget, Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give an official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those you love will be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews, and Eve 11 endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassie, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today for Goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia,
Did you
available on
say
Amazon.
Forbes, Riley?
Forrest Riley, yes, we'll get to that in just 1 minute. And the Mike
I
Wagner
know
Show.
Forbes.
Really? Oh my gosh. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so shout out Forbes.
Oh, yes,
I
yes,
love
yes.
her.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, yes. What a wonderful person. Yes. And we'll get to more about that. And also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on 40 podcast platforms, heard in over countries, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, Apple Music. Also on Hamilton Radio every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central. Also on BitChute, Rumble as well, and a few podcast platforms. Take us with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/MiaMosenZia for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also T-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, phone cases, and more. Amazon.com/MiaMosenZia. Check it out today. I'll support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Make sure you do so today. And Forbes Riley also gave a big testimony about Missing as well, too. And she'll, all the love as well, too. So
love Forbes. She is a big burst of love and energy. I love her.
Oh, definitely do. And next time we talk to her, we'll talk to our sponsor. We'll let them know that as well, too. And, get in touch as well, too. So, yeah. And I'm so glad you mentioned Forbes Riley as well. So that is so
of course.
Amazing. Yeah, Forbes. That's right. We're giving a lot of
queen. She's the queen of pitch. She's the queen of pitch. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I think she has sold over $1 billion worth of products. She is just such a high performer, and speaker, fabulous speaker. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely too. And of course you raked in millions as well too, that you went on to the, you transitioned from the modeling business, acting. You also got into the global print sales, and tell us about the transition. You went from Playboy to being on the VJ Hot Rock channel for Playboy as well too. The LA Express, and the transition going from there over to sales. And of course, it was one of the transitions that you made fairly seamless with your personality.
Well, at 40 years old, divorced, and not a lot of money, you have to grow, you have to stretch, you have to reinvent. And first I went into real estate, and it was right around the 2008 time, and I worked in a second home market, and so that didn't work out, and I could see that coming, and it was not fun because I started out, I was doing really well, and then that crashed. And then I met somebody, I did a couple of odd jobs, and then I met somebody who owned a global print business, and he said, well, if you can sell real estate, you can sell print. And I said, are you sure? And I said, and then, I'm like, I don't know. So we really worked out where I would work on a draw first to just kind of see if I could add value to his company. And I did immediately. And so then I was like he put me head of business development.
Nice.
But yeah, I think the gift, the genius that I have is I have no call reluctance. I don't have the fear of calling people and talking to them and letting them know what I'm doing. And so I called everybody, and I brainstormed with ideas. And that's why he made me head of business development, because I decided that we should get into the standee business in the entertainment world, and that I had connections with that. And so, I worked really hard to break into that business. That's a hard business to break into. And then, we had deals together through Revlon and Hallmark and all of those types of print procurement companies. But really what happened during that time is I was living in New York, and my kids were living with their dad. I was getting back on my feet, and I decided to get my life insurance license while I was doing that. So on the weekends I was studying because I was in with one of the biggest brokers in the life insurance industry. And around 2011, I kind of switched over from print to life insurance. And by the end of 2012, I was the #1 life agent 3 years in a row. And
nice.
That was just, they were like, who is this person? Because I qualified for the $1 Million Roundtable, and I had a good run with life insurance until COVID hit. And then COVID, I had to reinvent again because I live in LA, and the restrictions in LA were so bad. And so we really shut down here. And so all the partners went either to Tennessee or Florida or Virginia or New York. I stayed in LA and wrote the book. So so yeah, I've worn a lot of hats, and I've had a lot of success. And I don't say that to brag or anything like that. I say that for anybody who's listening, that that's possible. You know, that a girl that was a cheerleader, dancer, model, cover of Playboy, you know, how does that happen? How do I end up from the cover of Playboy to the head of sales in an industry that I really had to learn as I went? Those things are possible in life. And I think we get scared sometimes to reinvent and try something new. And there's belief systems that can hold us back. And I had a lot of horrible stories. You know, I had things like, well, I never graduated from college, you know, like,
I
like I would
hear
throw
those
this,
stories all the time. I never
right? Like,
graduated from college, never
I
graduated
didn't
from high school,
graduate
never
from
got a
college.
GED. Why? You know, I
Yeah.
hear all the time, and social media has really exploded where it's like it's getting me very common these days. It's like, you
Yeah,
know,
but what I mean is, like, my stories and my belief system for myself was so like, well, I don't have a college education, I don't have a degree, I don't have the, but really it's like those are just stories. Those are just beliefs, because I didn't need any of that. I needed people skills, networking, and hustle. And I
mhm.
had those. Those were my genius. And you know, being an insurance expert isn't what got me the deals. It was that people really liked doing business with me. I showed up, and that's 80% of sales is showing up. So, so that, you know, I say that to anybody that's listening that might, you know, be scared to reinvent. And we know, you know, because during COVID, a lot of people had to reinvent. And so that I was one of them, because we got shut down for 2 years in Los Angeles. And I thought, well, I've always really liked writing, and I really want to write. And so I started out with writing a weekly blog. And all of a sudden people were tuning in to that. And then I wrote this book, and then I wrote another book. And so, you know, do I think I'm an exceptional writer? No, but I don't have to be. I just enjoy doing it. And that's the whole reinvention key, is that you just do what you love doing. And I'm kind of on the journey right now, and it's beautiful. I don't know where it
Mhm.
might lead. Yeah.
And of course, for those who are scared of reinvention as well, too, what are some of the causes you think that's preventing people from, reinventing, like some of the sources, the roots, the fears, and everything else you explained? It's like, what are some of the underlying causes that cause people not to reinvent?
Yeah, it's the stories that they tell themselves, the belief systems, right? That story that keeps playing. Well, I didn't go to college. Well, I don't have a degree. Well, I don't have the money right now. It's like all the stories and these things. And you know, if you put all if I said to you right now, if money wasn't an option, or wasn't a, if money wasn't a something in the way, and you could do whatever you wanted right now, that's what you should be doing.
Hmm. Right.
And that's what's so cool, is that you should be doing whatever it is that's in your heart, and not worry about money or all of that, because that'll all come. And for most people that have been on their purpose, I know, because I have a lot of mentors in my life, and I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of really successful people. And there's one thing in common, is that they all say when they're on purpose, the money just came. That wasn't the focus. Oh, I'm going to be rich. It was more
Right.
like
Yeah. I see that all
the
the time.
purpose grows, right? The purpose just gets bigger and it expands. And then it's like you have a record company, and the next thing you know, you have an airline and a hotel. And, you have, it's really, you don't know where things can lead. And I think if you just show up, that's when the magic happens.
Mhm. He also talked about, with some of the pitfalls as well too, like with the various addictions as well too, and of course, serious matters and everything, and of course, ways to overcome causes and everything else, and of course, you went through some yourself, and maybe just share a bit, and also, how can people learn from this as well too, especially in the process of addiction to healing and everything else?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the other thing. So for me, with that, having that underlying addiction for so many decades. And it really caused a lot of horrible stuff in my life. Addiction is really, it's hard to deal with. And even when I was at the height of certain points in my career that, oh, you're on the cover of a magazine, or, oh, you booked that movie with Michael Nuri, the actor from Flashdance, or oh, you booked a part on General Hospital. It didn't matter, because underneath it all, I was suffering, and I was deep in my addiction, and I didn't know it. I didn't know that I had this addiction. I knew I felt off a lot of the time, but I didn't know that it was because of alcohol. I really didn't. And it's a really hard thing to admit defeat over something. And that's why it took me so long, because I'm so strong and I'm such a leader. And I like to think of myself as like, I can do anything. I did adventure racing, for crying out loud.
That sounds like fun.
I can beat this addiction. And, you just can't, it's not an I thing, it's a we thing. And I think those were the most powerful lessons for me throughout my life. And I say this all the time, the most important thing that I've ever done is get sober. It's the most important. And I've had slips, along the way, but I just keep showing up, and I keep remembering that recovery is the number one. Because without that, it's like without health, there's nothing. Without recovery, for me, there's nothing. So I really stay in front of that.
And you also help others along the way too, by being a healing coach, that you went through your addictions, also help theirs as well too, the pitfalls, the traps, what to do about it. And you've been very successful as a healing coach as well too, about some of your journeys and experiences as well.
Well, I think that, I've been in and around coaching for 20 years. Even before that, really, because when I was doing my adventure racing, I was training 6 hours a day, and I was doing these crazy 12-hour races. And I'd have women come up to me and say, I want you to be my trainer, because they saw, it's like attraction, right? Not promotion. They, when people see something that you have that they want, and I had women say, so what I did is I started this little hiking club with all these women, and I was helping get them in shape, because they'd see me dropping my kids off at school with my workout clothes, getting ready to go train. And they'd say, well, can we train with you? And I thought, well, that was really the start, I think, of my coaching endeavors, and then I've been in and around coaching for the last 20 years. And I think the best way to describe really what coaching is that I have experiences that I share with you, and I guide you on what not to do, because I've already made that mistake. So if you really want to be guided into avoiding certain things, so I'll give you an example of the type of coaching that I do. So I have a woman right now who's been married for 37 years. Her husband's not being faithful, and she moved out with anger. I'm done. She went and filed for the divorce, and then she booked a complimentary. She heard me speak on Clubhouse, and so she booked a complimentary call with me, and she told me her whole story. And at the end of her telling me the story, I asked her, are you coachable? Can I coach you? And she said, yeah. And I said, I want you to call your lawyer, right? I said, write all this down, So number one, I want you to call your lawyer and put your divorce on pause. And she was like, what? I'm like, yeah, just put your divorce on pause. And then number two, I want you to leave your husband alone for 30 days. She's like, but I said this, he's doing this. I said, no, we're going to work on you for 30 days.
Nice. Interesting.
And yeah. And then I said, I asked her point blank, is there anything that you're doing that might be kind of fogging you from the neck up? Meaning, are you drinking? Are you taking an antidepressant? Are you taking any type of medication? Are you overeating? Are you smoking? Tell me about your habits. So she told me 3 habits that she had. And I said, okay, for 30 days, put those habits down. She smoked. So I said, get a nicotine patch. And then at the end of 30 days, let's see which one you're having a hard time putting down. Because as an addict, I know that if you can't put something down for 30 days, then you have an addiction with it. So she's like, okay. And then I said, so let's leave him out of this for now. Let's work on you. Let's get you clear from the neck up, and let's not make any major life decisions. Can you do that? Because what happens is we make these permanent decisions when we're in these really weak emotional states. And we think it's all them or the situation or they or them or he or she. It's them, not me. And when we put that aside and we kind of look at ourselves and we do a little bit of a relationship detox, we have an opportunity to clean up our side a little bit and look at things with a new set of glasses, so to speak. And so that's the kind of work that I do is it's removing the drama, removing the chaos, and like kind of starting over on a new journey to get back to yourself. Because I don't think people divorce for a lack of love. I don't. I think they divorce because they've lost this polarity and they've have all these little sticky notes on each other. He's an asshole. She's this. He's me. He's cheating. She's a nag. We have all these different scenarios going on, and we don't even see who we actually married.
Right.
And truthfully, 90% of men that are cheating on their wife, they don't want to leave their wife. They just aren't getting what they really need from the wife. And so I said, why don't we before, and maybe, by the way, there's 10% where I could be totally wrong, but for the most part, and for the many situations that I have dealt with this with the clients, I've been pretty right on, and I've saved a lot of people from parting ways. So what I have learned is I started out as a business coach to help people with sales and like all that. And what I found out is that most people were struggling with their relationships. And I thought, okay, well, I can help you with that.
And of course, none of your business takes on a different meaning nowadays.
Well, and here's the thing, when we clean up our personal life, the business takes off. But when we're living in chaos, the business is going to be in chaos. That's just the way that energy works. We have to clean up our mess and get our mindset straight to then function in our business, especially entrepreneurs. So I started working with a couple of people that were wanting me to work with them as far as sales and helping them with ideas with marketing. And what I came to find out was they were struggling. And that's when I thought, this is my niche. This is what I'm really good at. I can help people clean up their mess and organize their life in a way where the business runs more smoothly. They won't even need me as a business coach, because it's really the personal stuff that needs to be cleaned up.
And a lot of times it's right under our noses and we don't even know it.
Well, that's why I said to her, why don't we look at all this first? And by the way, I said, you may feel the same way after 30 days. You may still say, I don't want to be with somebody that's cheating on me. But I said, but things might look different. And I'm hoping for the things might look different and you might calm your emotional self down to look at this differently. Now, how do I know this? Because I was 40 years old and I filed for divorce in an emotional state, very angry. And it was probably one of the biggest regrets, that I have in my life. Obviously I've worked through it now, but that was 19 years ago. So I've done a lot of work in the last 20 years around that. And how did I get to that? Because I actually married somebody that I really loved, that I really cared about, that I really liked being with. Like we had fun together. Like we were fun. We were a fun pair, and with 3 beautiful children. And I blew that all up. And how do you get to that place? And I became very intrigued with it and literally went to some of the best coaches in the world, including Tony Robbins and Alison Armstrong and John Gray and, all these great coaches that are available. And I educated myself on why that happens. And so with that experience, that's what I really hope to help people with. I'm actually starting a 90-day journey on February 4th, live on Zoom for people who are in my Deb's Den Club. we're going to go on this healing journey. And I think it's great to go on this healing journey, even if you're in a relationship and things are going smoothly, because even when things are going smoothly, I think that's even a good time to kind of do a little reset and make sure that we're good and we are giving and contributing to the relationship, because sometimes we forget.
Mhm.
So even with that, I say the 90-day journey is a really good journey to go, because you never know what's coming up.
Right, exactly. You also been on a journey as an author as well, too. It gets your journey on a book, Son of a Box as well, too. It's about an immigrant story of survival and gifts and bonding of family and everything. So we'll talk about that unique journey with Deborah Driggs. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios, and brought to you by our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's The Missing. We'll be back with the author of Son of a Basque, Deborah Driggs, after this time out. We're back to the amazing, multi-talented former model, actress, cheerleader, figure skater, and also a business entrepreneur and the author of the book, Son of a Basque. Also, Here Comes the Sun, Deborah Driggs, here on the Mike Wagner Show. And before we talk about journey of, Son of a Basque and everything else about an immigrant story of survival and bonding of gifts of the family, you also wrote Here Comes the Sun. And tell us about that book.
So Here Comes the Sun. So I didn't write the whole book. What it was a collaboration of women. We each wrote a chapter, and each chapter was a challenge we faced in life that we overcame. Here Comes the Sun. And so my chapter is entitled Suffering Quietly, and it's a chapter on addiction and the ups and downs that you go through on the roller coaster of recovery. And it's really what it is. It's recovery is probably one of the hardest things to do. And that's why I enjoy taking people through. I don't take them through an addiction recovery, but I like taking people through a 90 days of healing, because they're similar, because it's hard to take time and really look at yourself and how you're contributing in life. And so Here Comes the Sun is just got so many beautiful chapters with a lot of wisdom, a lot of great, the main author, Misty, oh God, I just spaced on her last name. Misty Riston. She's a friend of mine. We had a little brain blank. But
it happens to the best of us, even myself.
I know, as I'm like,
yes.
whoa, where'd my mind go? Because I was totally thinking about something else. I was trying to multitask.
Right. Yeah. And of course, brain health is another one too. I've had people on brain health, and sometimes, blips like happen and we all discover it. So,
yeah. So she asked me to write a chapter, and I'm actually collaborating with her in another book coming out this year called Now What? Okay, I lost 200 pounds. Now what?
Now what?
Yeah. Okay, I quit smoking. Now what? So we had a really good time with that collaboration as well. And then Son of a Basque is a manuscript that I found in 2017 when my grandmother passed. We were cleaning out her house, and there was a box in the garage with all this paperwork, like typed paperwork. And it wasn't in any type of order, and it didn't really make sense, but I knew it was a book. And the top was a file that had like submissions that my grandmother had sent to publishers in the early 80s. So this is like a 40-year, this book was written like 40 years ago. Okay.
A 40-year journey. Yes.
A 40-year journey. And here it is now in a box. So it was the only thing that I shipped from Florida to LA. And I didn't open that box until 2019.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. Oh, wow. Because it was, oh, wow. Because I opened the box, and as I started kind of piecing this puzzle together, I realized it was this beautiful journey based on my grandfather's life. And it put me on a mission of the importance of writing down family history. It just put me on that mission of like, this is really important stuff. And 80% of what I was reading, I didn't really know. And I thought, wow, all my grandparents have gone now, they've passed, but I have this one grandparent's roadmap. And I thought, God, what if I had all my grandparents' roadmap? What if they all left behind something like this, where I could really learn more about them. And then I was like, wow, I should have taken more time to interview them. And then I started then I started going down this whole like, I'm going to write about this is going to become my mission. And so I thought this is going to be a book. And I really wasn't concerned with if anybody even read it. I thought, well, if one person reads it, it was worth it. And it turned out that lots of people have read it and
Wow.
have reviewed it on Amazon. And it's a beautiful journey of one man's survival and maniacal persistence. And there's some really beautiful gems just about how he met his wife
Nice.
and then, how he lost his whole crew in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so many like twists and turns. But the first chapter, it's kind of like it had me at hello,
Mm-hmm.
because the first chapter, a lot happens. It just grabs you in the first chapter. And so I'm working on the screenplay right now because I think it really should be a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so many interesting things. I think as far as a movie goes, it's interesting to see that kind of part of World War II and the tail gunner perspective, because my grandfather was a tail gunner and he was very claustrophobic, and he was in that little part of the airplane where, like, how he describes
Oh,
it
yes.
is
I think I've seen it where it's like, you're flying this plane. Here is like a little
you
tiny
can't even
cockpit, and here you are, like,
see.
like that.
No, it's so claustrophobic, and he describes it so really like well in the book and takes you on that. And I thought, and he did over 25 missions and survived. And the one mission that he didn't go on because he was in the infirmary with pneumonia, his whole crew got shot down. And I think that probably was the hardest thing he had to live with up until 1998 when he passed.
Wow.
Looking back now on his whole journey, and he had Parkinson's at the end of his life, and I remember he would shake, and he had a lot of post-traumatic syndrome. But now that I have this book and this roadmap, it's like, it's interesting because now I can put these pieces together of like this generational trauma of what he must have been like as a father, and then passes that down to his kids. And then my mother, who saw him in that light. I was the granddaughter, so I didn't experience him as a father. I got him as a grandfather. So it's a much different experience. But to have that information, I think, is so important because it gives like my kids' kids, this kind of like look into where they came from just from one grandparent or one great grandparent, just
Mm-hmm.
a little history there, And so anyway, I went on this whole, when I wrote so many blogs and articles and things and interviews about the importance of having a family history for generations to come. And I just think, just from finding this miracle, this gift, that it woke me up a little bit to, it is important, even if you don't like your family. Okay. Even though, because I wasn't real close with my family. So it's not like I had this really close relationship, although I did with my grandparents. But with the rest of the family, I did not. And even when you don't have a close relationship, I think it's important to take the time to really understand where they came from. There's something really interesting about that. And when my grandmother was dying, she lived to be 93,
Mm-hmm.
and almost 94, really. She was right
Wow.
before her birthday, she passed. And she was all of a sudden telling me stories of her, started telling me stories about how when she was a kid, she used to run around. She's from London, and she used
Mm-hmm.
to run bets to all the pubs. She was a runner for bets
Oh,
from
wow.
all the pubs. And I'm thinking, you're just now telling me this, like, because I was like, I need to write this down. I mean, it was such great information, but she had a wild life too, and they met. She was a war bride. And so, my grandfather grew up in the Delta, Colorado area, and she's from London. She grew up in Britain. She's British. They met during World War II. She was a war bride. They got married. She was 17. And they
Wow.
stayed married. I think they celebrated their 55th wedding anniversary before he died.
That is amazing. And in fact, I've seen it too, where I've been in events where it's like, I did a wedding a while back for a couple celebrated 50th, never got to do a dance because as soon as he got married, he had to go to war. That was very common back in the day too. And
Very common.
yes, yes.
And
I love you, kiss the bride, and then off you go to war to fight whoever, that sort of thing.
yeah. And it's so, and she was 17 and then, they had this very crazy life because he would get stationed in Guam or then they'd go back to London and then Washington and then they ended up in California. So they lived all over and they had quite an extraordinary military life. And he was of service throughout his career in the military. He served in Korea and he served in Vietnam. And so they had a very interesting military life. And then he became a detective. But there's also a whole, he worked in, I think right before he went to, or after World War II, he worked as a prison guard at San Quentin.
Oh,
it's like,
wow.
wait, what? So and I had no idea.
Maybe you want to see Johnny Cash. Who knows?
Yeah. So, I have to say it's interesting to find that. And I just feel really privileged that I got to make it into a book and edit it and go through that whole process. Cause it's really not an easy process, the whole writing and all of that. And I learned so much doing it. It was emotional too, because it's my grandfather. And so, to make decisions about a book that he wrote, I had to change a few things in the book and then we decided it was going to be a historical fiction and some of the characters didn't really make sense. So we had to make some changes with some of the characters. And so to work on somebody else's work and writing and, my whole goal was to keep it as authentic as I could to what he originally wrote, which was beautiful.
And what else do you want readers to get from the book? What else?
Oh, they're just going to be on this amazing journey. I actually, this was a great story. One of the girls that where I get my hair done, she's washing my hair and she says, "Oh, I read your book." And I said, "You did?" And she said, "Yeah, I read your book." And I said, "How old are you?" And she said, "I'm 24." And I said, "Well, what did you think of it?" And she said, "I loved it." She goes, "I told my brother he has to read it." And so I thought that was a great testimonial. I said, "Please go online and write that testimonial, because for a 24-year-old to be interested in it." She goes, "No, I thought it was such a great read." So I think that if you want to go on a really good hero journey, it's a hero journey. Persistence, leadership, hero journey, somebody who just doesn't give up and gets to be of service and looks at it that way, looks at it like I get to be of service and all the things that come with that. It's not all it's not all glory and roses. It's work. He was a worker among workers. And so it's a good hero journey. And I think anybody of any age, really, like I don't want to narrow it down to who it's for, because for a 24-year-old girl to say, "I read your book and I loved it," was like amazing to me. Because here I was thinking it was going to be for men ages 45 to 65, and it's really for anybody that wants to go on a hero journey.
And of course, you never know who's going to read the book. You pretty much open a whole new portal, a new reinvention on that one. So that's another reinvention.
Absolutely. And for anybody that's listening right now to this podcast, if you subscribe to my newsletter at my website, which is deborah.driggs.com, fill out the newsletter, subscribe, and tell me when I email you that you were listening to the show. Just send me a little note saying I was listening to the show, and I'll send you a signed copy of the book within the US. And if you're outside of the US, I'll send you the PDF.
Sounds good. We'll certainly do that. And where can we find your book and all your works at, Deborah?
At my website. All the information that you want about me, my coaching, my books, everything is at my website, which is my name, DeborahDriggs.com.
We will certainly check that out. Once again, we're with the author of the book, Son of a Boss, Deborah Driggs, on the Mike Wagner Show, model, actress, cheerleader, figure skater, and successful in the business and also the financial industry. A very big thank you for your time. Just a couple of things. What else can we expect me in 2023 and beyond, Deborah?
Well, I'm writing 2 books right now. I'm working on my memoir, and I'm also coming up with this 90-day detox for relationships. I've decided I'm going to put that into a book. And so that's coming up. And then I have a weekly blog, so every week. And then in 2021, I did a small part in a movie called Neon Bleed. And so that's coming out this year. So you can look for that. And again, all this information is at my website so that people know books, movies, podcasts, radio shows, blogs. If you want to read articles, it's all on my website.
All right, well, certainly check that out, Deborah. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
There's so many. I mean, for my insurance industry, my partners, for sure, they really taught me everything I know. In my acting and modeling industry, I would say the people that I really looked up to were Kathy Ireland and Meryl Streep. I think they had really beautiful careers. They do have really beautiful careers. And I think Kathy Ireland was extremely brilliant in how she just created a multi-billion-dollar business. I have coaches and mentors that I look up to. I think Tony Robbins is one of those people that really walks his talk. He's been in the business for 40 years, still teaching the same basic stuff. And, that's not hard. That's not easy to do. And then, I really look up to Jesse Itzler and Sarah Blakely. I think they have a beautiful relationship and family, and they're like a relationship to aspire to, as far as a partnership goes. So God, there's so many. I mean, Oprah, obviously, Princess Diana, bless her heart. I loved, following her and her life and her career. So yeah, I have a lot of people in my life that are mentors, that people that I know, and then people that I don't know.
And certainly amazing, a King Scroll. That's very impressive. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Well, my best advice is never make any decisions when you're in an emotional state.
Good point.
And work on yourself for 30 days before leaving a relationship. Don't threaten the relationship. And if you're not sure what any of that means, book a complimentary call with me and I'll walk you through that.
We'll certainly do so, and that's great advice to heed too. We're with Deborah Driggs of Son of a Basque and model, actress, cheerleader, and extraordinary here on the Mike Wagner Show. Deborah, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Great journey. I love having you on. Looking forward to having you again soon. No problem. And just keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love to have you back. And once again, what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your books and check out your goods?
DeborahDriggs.com. My name, DeborahDriggs.com.
We will certainly check that out. Once again, Deborah, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love to have you back and wish you all the best. And Deborah, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
Thank you so much.